The Gorog, the colossal mammalian that feasts on rancors for lunch, versus the Zillo beast, the city-jumping reptile that required the combined forces of the GAR and the Jedi Order to finally defeat. Two titanic monsters of the Star Wars galaxy, and no planet is big enough for the two of them. Recently, we've been running a mini-series talking about some of the galaxy's most dangerous monsters, and it seems that on a ground basis, two gods of nature stand out as being the strongest of them all. But in the words of Pre Vizsla, only the strong shall rule. In today's video, these titans from a galaxy far, far away will finally clash, and we will be analyzing their size, strength, and survivability to see what would happen if the Gorog ever encountered the Zillo beast. But what's interesting is that we can already tell you that this fight is not actually that close at all. So, let us begin. Let's first discuss the Gorog, a creature that we've talked about more recently. This beast may just be the only force of nature outside of Vader and Sidious that can actually stop Starkiller dead in his tracks. And we are even talking about Galen Marek, but his much stronger clone. The first and only specimen of the Gorog ever known was found on the world of Cato Neimoidia, trapped in a gladiatorial ring, and was frequently fed rancors as its primary source of food. The astronomical ape measured around 22 to 25 meters tall, or roughly about 80 feet. It had a vaguely humanoid form and appearance, with a huge muscular torso, long upper limbs, and shorter legs. Like most ape-like creatures, all of its power was in the upper body, and it moved around using mostly its arms to climb and swing itself from surface to surface. The lower arms of the creature were massive, tipped with huge smashing claws. While the legs were shorter, the feet were around the same size as its forearms were, giving the creature something of a hawk foot. But over the course of its appearances, the Gorog does not use its feet very often at all. One of the Gorog's best attributes is its overwhelming strength. But with that said, there are places of significant and considerable weakness, such as its thighs and its biceps, where its leathery flesh wraps around the bone, leaving a hole where the biceps and thighs usually would be on other humanoid animals, though this may not be a weakness at all as the monster's bones have proven to be stronger than even that of reinforced durasteel. The Gorog's head also contained a row of bone-like tusks protruding out from beneath its mouth. The Imperials that had trapped the creature fitted it with a restraining collar, cuffs, and a chain that in the lore is said to have taken the materials of an entire starship to build. And yet, just one more addition would make this beast an even more frightening creature, and that being its triangular metal plate bolted to one side of the creature's head. With all of that said though, the strength of the Gorog is more impressive than its own size. When brought into a rage, the Gorog was able to break free of the Colosseum's restraining measures. These measures were put in place using Imperial technology and funded by the wealth of Cato Neimoidia. These restraints were specifically made to keep giant creatures like the Gorog in place. And yet, the giant mammal broke free like it was nothing, fighting through the pain of the restraining collar just to attack Starkiller. The power of the creature's physiology cannot be understated, and just with a singular roar, the Gorog's breath can be used as a concussive weapon. The sound waves and wind that it produces was able to cause large chunks of debris to go flying, and severely damaged even force-sensitive humanoids. Once free, the Gorog also proved itself to be much more agile than it appears, climbing the rafters of the stadium and keeping its balance extremely well, even though Starkiller was attacking the creature the entire time. But we believe that this fight will come down to two things: durability and survivability. And this is where the Gorog is extremely impressive. The Gorog was able to resist even Starkiller's force powers, fighting through his force lightning, and breaking free every time Galen restrained him with telekinesis. Keep in mind that this is a more powerful version of Galen, and although this feat is overblown in the lore, the original Galen Marek did use the force to bring down a Star Destroyer. The creature's skin and hide was so thick that lightsaber strikes only seemed to enrage the Gorog. However, the metal plate that we mentioned earlier hid a weak spot. One appeared to be some kind of surgical scar. Whenever Starkiller stabbed directly into the scar, it caused the Gorog considerable pain, allowing it to fly into a frenzy. However, it did little to do in the way of damage to the creature. The Gorog's bone structure also seems to be inornately dense, which adds to its own weight. When the Gorog fell from the rafters of the stadium, it smashed straight through the floor and went tumbling to the planet's depths. We don't have any specs on what exactly the Colosseum was made out of on Cato Nemoidia, but we can surmise that the reinforced durasteel would have been a key ingredient here, since the stadium was built to hold the Gorog's immense body. But even while free-falling, the Gorog was still fighting and looked mostly uninjured. The Gorog is the definition of durability. As far as survivability goes, the Gorog survived Galen plunging through his chest. It was later revealed by Boba Fett that the Gorog had 2 hearts, and that Galen only punctured one of them in the game, though this was enough to put the creature out for a long period of time. Yet, even when hitting the bottom of Cato Nemoidia's surface at terminal velocity, the Gorog still did not die until Boba Fett had to deal with it once it awoke, destroying its second heart. It had enough strength to resist Boba's jetpack missile, and died only when the bounty hunter flew straight into its other heart, destroying both of them completely. But what about weaknesses for the Gorog? Well, one thing we could say is that its density is somewhat of a problem, as it considerably adds to the creature's weight. While it was able to climb with relative ease, its own bulk will work against it when it takes a fall. It's not able to easily regain its balance either, also because its physiology is so top-heavy. Not to mention, while the Gorog can't exactly be called slow, we can't say its reaction speed is good at all. It's not bad, but it's not great. It was far too slow for Starkiller, and anytime it moves, it usually leaves a large window of opportunity for its prey to escape or to attack. Boba was able to launch a missile into its chest and take off in flight while the Gorog was mid-swing with one of its gigantic arms. And this, my friends, will be a problem. So now with the Gorog, let's talk about the terror of Coruscant, the Zillo beast. In terms of myth, the Gorog was labeled by an ancient tribe as the end of all things. Similarly, the Zillo beast was said by the ancient Dug species to be the cataclysm of their race. So how does our reptilian friend measure up against the Gorog? Well, right off the bat, the Gorog finds itself at a massive size disadvantage. The Zillo beast is just shy of being 4 times the height of the Gorog, standing at an average of 97 meters tall. The gargantuan Zillo beast towers over almost every other land-dwelling creature in all of Star Wars lore. The Zillos were large serpentine creatures with 5 limbs, 2 of them being legs and 3 being arms, with one of the arms located on the creature's back. The deadliest thing about the Zillos were their defensive abilities. The natural plating that lined every inch of their bodies was possibly the most dense non-alloy substance in all of Star Wars. Republic gunships did nothing to it. Tanks did nothing to it, and not even a direct hit from a lightsaber could pierce the creature's hide. Not even bother it really. Whenever Anakin got up close and personal to the Zillo beast on Malastare, he found that his blade merely glanced harmlessly off the creature's hide. Not even Grandmaster Yoda and Aayla Secura together climbing all over the beast's back so much as distracted it. The only conceivable durability weakness that it has is the specific toxin in the fuel that is native to Malastare. Besides this, it isn't armored on the inside of its body either, allowing a lightsaber to cut from the inside out. It's important to mention that it's difficult to even get near a Zillo in order to fight it though, because it has the capability to feed on electricity to increase its mass and its strength. The Republic containment fields weren't enough to keep the Zillo down, and just like the Gorog, it snapped free of state-of-the-art technology on Coruscant. The only difference here is that the Republic had actually tested their containment technology before, so unlike the Gorog, the field containing the Zillo wasn't faulty at all beforehand. The Zillo beasts were extremely thin, and they extended out into long sweeping tails tipped with huge spikes. Their slender frames had multiple limbs allowing them to contort and move their bodies through just about any terrain. They also thrived in locations with mountains and rocky crags. This even allowed the Zillo beast to move effortlessly through the massive city world of Coruscant. And most impressive of all, the creature's movement is not hindered whatsoever by its massive size. It was able to cross terrain at considerable speeds, as it traversed several miles of the Coruscant city within minutes. Its slender frame and multiple joints, along with the tail, allowed it to move seamlessly, distributing its weight perfectly. Not only this, but it could even easily leap from building to building, crossing multiple streets in a single bound. So despite being 4 times the size of the Gorog, it also seems to be 4 times as agile at the least. And now the reaction speed of the Zillo beast. It was shown to be fast enough to smack approaching ships out of the air with its tail, or catch them mid-flight with its claws. While it's true that the Gorog was able to catch Boba Fett with a backhand in the air when he was using his jetpack, it didn't hit him dead on, only glazing him enough to force him to land. The Gorog has trouble with his accuracy in hitting small targets, but the Zillo beast's keen eyes and hand can spot a single target anywhere. It specifically chased Palpatine alone, dead set on killing him across all of Coruscant. But with all of that said, our next category is one of the most interesting, and that is intelligence. We didn't measure the Gorog on this since we wanted to compare the two beasts side by side, and unfortunately for the Gorog, this is a wash in favor of the Zillo. It was explicitly shown that the Zillo on Coruscant was not only sentient, but rather self-aware. It could understand Galactic Basic, as it knew what Palpatine was ordering, as the Zillo literally deciphered that Palpatine wanted him terminated. It was able to exploit loopholes in the Republic's containment field, and it went on a rampage dead set on finding Palpatine himself. It seemed to know that Palpatine was in the Senate building, as it made a beeline directly towards it, ignoring everything else in the city. The Gorog, by contrast, seems to have only a baseline intelligence, acting on instinct more than anything else. The Gorog is usually aggressive towards everything around it, driven by rage and hunger. It smashes and eats anything it can without distinction. If a fight were to occur between the Gorog and the Zillo, it wouldn't be a fight at all. The Gorog's primary weapon is its size, but in a fight with the Zillo, this advantage is taken completely away, as the Gorog is literally dwarfed. The Gorog can attempt to climb all over the Zillo. It can smash away at it with its claws, but nothing will break the Zillo's armor. Taking this further, the Zillo would be able to consume the technology of the Gorog's restraining collar, gaining even more power if the Zillo desired. The Gorog is incapable of taking advantage of either of the Zillo's weaknesses. It doesn't have enough intelligence or resources to use Malastyr's fuel toxin, and it is simply too big and too dumb to try and climb into the Zillo's mouth and kill it from the inside. Put simply, defeating the Gorog would be more of an inconvenience for the Zillo beast rather than an actual literal challenge. The Gorog has proven itself to be insanely resilient. Its thick hide and 2 hearts makes it incredibly hard to kill. But with enough time and life on the line, the Zillo beast could crush, bite, and toss around the ape competitor until the Gorog's body gave out. No amount of rage from the creature would be able to do anything to the Zillo beast's body. The fight was never close, my friends. And with that, I declare the Zillo beast the confident winner. When we first wanted to make this video, we started out with a Star Wars version of Godzilla vs. Kong. Looking at the 2 images of the monsters, the fight looked like the Titan clash of the century. But then we saw the size difference of the 2 of them. And in the realms of monsters, size absolutely matters. But even if it didn't, the Zillo beast proved to be smarter, faster, maybe not tougher, but overall better equipped as an apex predator. For those of you that have been around since the very beginnings of the channel, I got my start in comparing dinosaurs from Jurassic Park and monsters like Godzilla, so getting to do this video was extremely fun. Anyway, my friends, thank you so much for watching the channel and the love and support. May the Force be with you always, and have a great day.